All right, we had an order today for a 22-inch by 60-inch or 5-foot long gang sheet, and this person created their own PNG file and uploaded the 22 by 60-inch file, but it had some problems. So we'll take a look at that. So when you upload your own images, there is an art review process we go through real quickly just to see if the file is okay. And one of the things that we look for are things like little artifacts that are left behind, usually from background removal tools that don't get everything, or maybe just little fragments that are left behind from editing or something like that. And make sure those, we try to catch them and make sure that those aren't a problem. So you want to make sure your images are nice and clean with hard edges as possible, and make sure that there's no artifacts. So I'm going to show you how we do this, because it would be a big help to us when you're working with your files, especially if you're doing it in Photoshop, if you would do these things and check for them and clean them up yourself before you upload them. And just want to share this information and show you how to do this. So let me switch over to the computer and we'll get started here. Okay, so we're in Photoshop and we're going to take a look at the file here that was uploaded when the gang sheet was purchased. And I got the permission from the person who placed the order to use their file as an example, and we're going to clean this up and help them out a little bit. And when we look at the file initially, everything looks pretty clean. You don't really see anything around here that would cause a problem or anything. When I zoom in, we'll point out a couple things, and then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. So one of the things I'm looking at is the edges of this image and the background. So as you can see, there are some artifacts here. It looks like the background removal tool didn't quite get everything, and so we're going to want to clean that up a little bit. I'm kind of doing this as a favor to the person that submitted it in exchange for them letting me use their design for the purposes of education. And you see everything else looks pretty clean around it, but there's a test we need to do to verify that. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to insert a new layer, and I'm going to do that by hitting Control-Shift-N, and we're going to leave this as no color and 100% opacity in normal mode. And then over here on the layers panel, we want to drag that below the actual image layer. And we're going to add a really light gray color to it and just use the fill bucket. So make sure you're selected on that layer, and we're going to put a fill behind it so that we can see things like white. And so you can see that little border is a little bit more prevalent there now, now that we've done that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a drop shadow. And what is going to happen is a drop shadow is going to reveal any artifacts that are kind of straggling around the images that you might not see. I can see one right here already on the screen. And so we'll come over here and we'll double click on the image layer, and I'm going to turn on drop shadow. And with drop shadow, you can make some adjustments. So if I want to change how light or dark it is and how large the drop shadow is, usually something like that is adequate to reveal any of these little artifacts that are around there. And so now you really start to see how jagged the edges are, and you see these other little artifacts that are kind of hanging around this. And so I'll get my regular eraser tool for that, and we'll make it quite a bit larger, a couple hundred pixels. And I'll quickly just kind of get rid of these. Those are the easy ones to deal with. And there's another little one right here in the middle that we're going to have to shrink down the eraser tool to get that one. And if we zoom in real close and look at the little parts of the cat's ears and paws that are overhanging over the edges, we'll probably see some more. I see a couple down there. And so we're going to want to clean those up and get rid of them. And I'm just using the eraser tool to quickly hit those little areas. And so in this case, the first thing I'm going to want to do is try to clean up around the cat's ears here. I'm going to do this with the eraser tool first. And we're going to zoom in real tight to each one of these little areas. And I'm just going to kind of erase around that and clean it up a little bit so that there's a lot less of that white edge that's left behind from the background removal tool. And then the last part down here, one of the cat's paws is overhanging there. You want to be very careful. We're going to make the eraser a little bit smaller so that I don't erase any of the letters that are right next to it there. I'm not too worried about cutting into this pink background because we're going to address that here in a moment as well. And now that we've cleaned up around the two cat's ears and around that paw, there's a couple different ways we could do this. I could use the marquee tool to mark around that. But in this case, I'm going to try to use the magic eraser tool, and we're going to recreate that pink circle and make it and clean it up a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is grab a sample of the color using our eyedropper tool. And then we're going to go to the eraser tool and select the magic eraser tool. And currently the tolerance on that is set to 50%, and contiguous, meaning when I click here, it's only going to remove things that's touching in that same color. And if I click that, you'll see it leaves behind quite a bit around here, here on the edge. But that's okay. We're going to manually fix that. We'll just go all the way around and clear that out. I'm not worried about this pink halo around the actual cats, because that should blend in once I replace the circle behind that. But first, before we erase all of it, we want to draw our new circle. So we're going to come over to our ellipse tool. Again, we already grabbed the color pink. And we're going to hold the shift key while we drag that circle out and place it just so. And it looks like I got it just about the perfect size too. So we're going to go with that. So over here, we're going to right click on that and rasterize it. And then we're going to hide that layer while we're working on this and go ahead and zoom in and clean up that little border that's been left behind from the magic eraser tool. So we'll get our regular eraser tool again. And we'll make that a little larger again, a little easier to work with. And we'll just erase all this. And you see that shadow, drop shadow, goes away as I erase. So it's that drop shadow tool is a good tool as a reference to make sure you're not missing little tiny artifacts that could show up on your transfers. Sometimes it's not a big deal if they're there. Sometimes they will, you can just kind of flick them off with your finger if you get something stray out there, and peel it off before you press it. But once it's pressed on, it can be a kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. So again, we'll just straighten all that up. And now that looks pretty clean. We'll go ahead and unhide our circle, and we'll drag it down underneath of the cats. And now we'll turn off that drop shadow. And you see how nicely that blends right into it. Actually, I mean, if you look at that compared to the one next to it, you'll see it is so much sharper and has the hard edges and everything. So if I were to zoom in here, and then I move over to here, you'll see the difference. So now what I want to do in this case is I'm going to merge these layers so that we're back to one layer again plus that gray background. And if I zoom all the way out, you'll see we have a dozen of these transfers here, and that one on the top left is the one that I fixed. So we're going to copy this part of the image. We just went around it with our marquee tool, and we can hide that layer, and we can paste these in here and just reduplicate this gang sheet real easily. If I want to speed that up, now that I have 6 of them, I can combine those layers. I can either highlight all of them and right click and merge layers, or I can hit Control E as a shortcut. And then, like I said before, we needed a dozen of them. So I'll copy paste 6 at a time. And now our gang sheet is pretty much ready. The last couple things we want to do, we want to get rid of the original image and that gray layer. And we're going to do a Control E and merge the first 6 and the second 6 we copy pasted so that it is now one layer. And since we're editing the PNG file, we're back to one layer and everything, all I need to do is just save it. So I can go to File and Save, or I can hit Control S. And you'll see it start saving. It may take a few seconds to completely save because these files are fairly large. So again, once you, when you're uploading your own gang sheet and adding it to your cart, depending on the size of the sheet, your upload speed and everything, give it a minute or two, maybe several minutes, for it to completely upload before you start clicking around or asking for help and everything, because your upload speed on your internet has a large effect on that when it comes to how long it takes to add it to your cart. All right, so that's how we, one way we review your artwork to make sure there's, we try to catch everything we can. We can't always do that. So the best thing to do is to make sure your files are as clean and prepped as possible before we upload it, or before you upload it to us. That way we don't have to send you emails and chase you down and hope you respond and get into a predicament where you're waiting on your transfers and we can't get in touch with you or something like that. Quality uploads are extremely important. It helps us keep prices down because we don't have to spend as much time working on things and contacting people and everything. So do a little homework, make sure your artwork is good, and if you have any questions or comments, post them down below the video.